Good morning. This is Sandra Johnson, and I would like to welcome you to the morning session of the AECT conference. Please make sure that all cell phones have been placed in the off position. I am here to introduce our keynote speaker for this period. He will be discussing the development of critical thinking skills in distant education. I would like for you to excuse me, I'm just a little nervous, but I would like to introduce you to Stephen Brookfield, and I'm going to give you a little background information about him. He has been a leader in research and scholarship in 4 major fields. 1. Understanding the practice of teaching and facilitation across a range of diverse adult educational contexts. 2. Understanding the rhythms of critical thinking as a form of learning and the dynamics of how best to develop this. 3. Understand the development of critically reflective practice among adult educators. And 4. Applying the theoretical concepts of critical theory to the understanding of adult learning and education. Critical thinking. Now, what exactly is critical thinking? According to Bullen, critical thinking is defined as thinking that is reasonable and reflective and focused on what to believe or do. There are several essential aspects when you are discussing critical thinking, and they include dispositions, criteria, argument, reasoning, point of view, and procedures for applying that criteria. And I'm going to briefly give you some pointers about these different areas. Dispositions. This includes that critical thinkers are skeptical, open-minded, value fair-mindedness, respect evidence and reasoning. They respect clarity and precision, look at different points of view, and will change positions when reason leads them to do so. Then there's criteria. In order to be able to think critically, we must apply criteria. Need to have conditions that must be met for something to be judged as believable. Although the argument can be made that each subject has different criteria, some standards apply to all subjects. An assertion must be based on relevant, accurate facts, based on credible sources, precise, unbiased, free from logical fallacies, logically consistent, and strongly reasoned. Then there's argument. It is a statement or proposition with supportive evidence. Critical thinking involves identifying, evaluating, and constructing arguments. There's also reasoning. It is the ability to infer a conclusion for one or multiple premises. To do so requires examining logical relationships among statements or data. There's also the point of view. This is the way that one views the world, which shapes one's construction of meaning. In search for understanding, critical thinkers view phenomena from many different points of view. Then there's also the procedure for applying criteria. Other types of thinking use general procedure. Critical thinking makes use of many procedures. These procedures include asking questions, making judgments, and identifying assumptions. And we're going to see how all of these things become very important when we're talking about distant education. First, we must know that the student has an understanding, and that is the ability to select and monitor that thinking strategy that one uses. There must be declarative knowledge, and there must be understanding how individual knowledge impacts what others people know. And we have learned this information from Osborne. There are several characteristics of critical thinking that must be addressed, and according to this these once again involve asking questions, defining the problem, examining evidence, analyzing assumptions and biases because they do exist, avoiding emotional reasoning, we leave self out, avoiding oversimplification, considering other interpretations, and tolerate ambiguity. Now, how do we obtain these skills? As educators, For our students, we must be educators and facilitators. We must be able to model best practices. And some of the responsibilities as a facilitator or as a teacher, we must stimulate thought through extending discussions. We just don't be happy with a yes or a no or ABC or a true or false or I agree. We must challenge the student to research information. We must create a space and time for informal and reflective thought. And we should provide probing questions, not questions that just can be answered in a simple yes or no. Now, we can also incorporate, and we should incorporate, different forms of technology for collaboration and critical thinking and discussion. And we can use various items that are listed here, such as the wiki, podcast, discussion boards, email, blogs, WebQuest, video conferencing, and Skype, just to name a few. There are so many, I could not name them all. Now, some strategies that a teacher could use or a facilitator could use for the student is to require a course-related journal, and we should also provide positive reinforcement when the student is using critical thinking to let them know they're doing critical thinking and they're doing a great job. And we should assign narrowly focused topics. So it will give the student an opportunity to critically think and to think outside of the proverbial box. Now the student has responsibilities too. And one thing before the student can really critical think, they have to ensure that they have some social skills that have been birthed or have been grown. And this is according to Osborne also. He said that students should increase their social skills by asking the right questions and be willing to listen to each other, help each other to learn, build on each other's ideals if that's okay, and they should construct their own understanding. Now, in the conclusion, I want you to understand that we hear the word critical thinking all the time, but it is not a buzzword, but it is an intellectual process. And it does take practice for us to use critical thinking in our online classes. And it does take practice for both the facilitator and the student. And through coaching, skilled questioning, and the student will be able to learn and reflect and solve problems. And this is according to Lunley. And once again, I wanted to thank you for your time, and I would like for you to let's stand up and let's welcome Steve Broomfield as he comes to the stage, because he's going to help provide a foundation for critical thinking. And thank you for your time.